In December of 2009, Susan Powell vanished from her Utah home, leaving behind 2 young sons, a troubled marriage, and a trail of clues that only raised more questions. For more than a decade, her case has haunted investigators, frustrated her family, and sparked theories ranging from simple domestic violence to a multi-person cover-up. Susan lived in West Valley City, Utah, with her husband, Josh Powell, and their boys, Charlie and Braden. On the morning she disappeared, Josh told police that he had taken the kids camping at midnight during a blizzard. That story alone set off alarms. When officers entered the home, they found wet spots on the couch, fans blowing directly onto those wet areas, and they found that Susan's purse was still in the house. They also found her phone hidden in a drawer. Later, investigators found Susan's blood on the floor. This was no ordinary disappearance. This was the beginning of a nightmare. The theory most people accept is the simplest. Josh Powell killed his wife, hid her body, and used the midnight camping trip as an alibi. There's plenty of evidence pointing this direction. Susan told friends that she had feared for her safety for quite some time. Josh began increasingly controlling with money, religion, and family life. The boys told social workers Mommy was in the trunk and Mommy stayed where the crystals are, referencing the Utah West Desert. Josh cleaned the house immediately after the disappearance. He refused multiple polygraphs, and he instantly lawyered up and never cooperated. Even with all of this, the case became nearly impossible to prosecute without a body. Another part of this theory is that the West Desert is full of abandoned mine shafts. Many of these are hundreds of feet deep and wide enough to hide an entire vehicle. Volunteers and private search groups spent years exploring shafts Josh could have reached in his van. A few shafts were sealed off right after Susan disappeared, and some locals still believe she is somewhere out there in a collapsed mine that will never be reopened. It's plausible because Utah's West Desert is massive, empty, and almost impossible to search completely. Another theory is that the Powell family helped Josh cover it up. This is one that chills people the most. Josh's father, Steve Powell, was obsessed with Susan. He wrote journals about her, filmed her without her knowledge, kept her underwear, and believed that she was secretly in love with him. There are investigators who think Steve helped Josh after the murder. Steve's house became the target of major evidence seizures. Computer files suggested disturbing fantasies. Several family members acted evasive in interviews. The family closed ranks around Josh immediately. If Josh had helped disposing of the body, that would explain why no trace of her has ever been found. Another one that's not often talked about is that it's called the early disposal window. And this is how it works. The police assumed Susan disappeared Sunday night or Monday morning, because that's when Josh claimed that the camping trip had happened. But some detectives believe Susan may have been killed much earlier, possibly Saturday morning or during the afternoon. If that's true, then Josh had a full 24 to 36 hours before anyone had even considered her missing. So there were no Amber Alerts, no police, no media, and no suspicion. During this time, he could have moved her body to a remote location, buried her deep in snow-covered mountains, used fire pits or abandoned structures, taken her body outside of the state, or disposed of evidence using tools or burning methods before anyone suspected anything. By the time police entered the home, the crime scene may have already been cleaned, staged, and cooled down. This theory explains why there's little to no physical evidence, why cadaver dogs hit but never found a body, why the boys' memories were inconsistent, and why Josh seemed oddly calm in early interviews. If Susan had died early Saturday, Josh had more than a day of freedom before he needed an alibi. The unfortunate tragedy after all of this was 2 years later, Josh killed himself and his 2 sons in an explosion during a custody visit. To many people, this was his confession, a final horrific act to keep his secrets forever. Steve Powell later died while in prison, and other family members drifted away, and Susan's body has still never been found. So what really happened to Susan Powell? Was it a straightforward domestic murder, a coordinated family cover-up, a desert disposal that will never be uncovered, or did the truth disappear during that silent early window before anyone realized Susan was missing? Let me know which theory you think is closest to the truth.